Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my kitchen. We are doing another pub classic today, a cooking class that is involving pudding. It can't be possibly a better start to the morning than doing pudding before lunch. I just think that's fantastic. And the type of pudding that we're doing today is a sticky date pudding. What could be better? I mean, it's pudding, it's sticky date, it's fabulous. I'm even going to teach you guys how to make the most incredible buttery caramel sauce to go with your sticky date pudding. And of course, as always, everything is gluten-free, everything is sugar-free, and everything is dairy-free here today. So it is going to be a fabulous, fabulous cooking class. Thank you for joining me. If you've never been to my kitchen before, welcome along. I hope you have a good time. I know I'm going to have a good time because pudding, sticky date is like, yes, so fabulous. It's Saturday here, currently in Sydney, so I'm thinking sticky date pudding for Saturday lunch. I reckon that's a good move. Good morning to Robin. I've just seen you pop in. Hello, dear. And it's so nice to have all of you along today. Please let me know where you are coming from today, where you're joining from us from around the world. It's always so wonderful. And hi to Sue. So if you're joining me on this live broadcast, feel free to ask questions. If you're watching it once it's been recorded, then make sure you join us for a live. It's always fun to be able to ask questions as we're going along. So let's get into the recipe. Come on down to my bench. There is a secret ingredient in our sticky date pudding today. Secret ingredient, and I always love secret ingredients when it comes to anything desserty. Like for instance, we did our cauliflower chocolate cake, the magic chocolate cake, which is mind-blowing. This is kind of one of those recipes as well. Yes, there's dates in it. Yes, it's sticky, but what is the secret ingredient? Come on down and I'm going to show you what that secret ingredient is. Here it is right here. The secret ingredient, well, not so secret now, in my sticky date pudding is sweet potato. That's right, there is sweet potato in my sticky date pudding. It makes it so wonderfully tasty, fragrant, and also very, very light. So the first thing that you want to do is grab yourself up a large sweet potato. Probably you want to roast, because we're going to be roasting this off in the oven. You can actually, if you don't want to roast it, you can boil it, because what we need to do is make mash. So if you want to roast this off in the oven, and I always prefer roasting my sweet potato because it does kind of get a little bit drier, which is really good when it goes into the pudding. And also I find that the flavor is more intense. So you want to pop your sweet potato in, and you're probably looking for about 200 grams worth of raw sweet potato, which is about 7 ounces. So this is way bigger than that. You probably need half of this. And you want to pop that onto a roasting tray, unpeeled, just like this. And you want to roast it at 180 degrees Celsius, which is 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And you want to roast that for about 35 to 45 minutes. Now look, if you think that's all a little bit too much like hard work, you can also boil it and mash it. So if you want to do that, peel it, cut it up into small pieces, pop it into a pot with some water, and boil away for about 20 minutes till it's lovely and soft. So that's a little bit easier, but the roasting method is way tastier, in my humble opinion. So that's the first thing you want to do. And there are a couple of steps involved in this sticky date pudding, but nothing too difficult, and it's rewarding because you get pudding at the end. So that's the first thing. We're going to deal with that. Once it comes out of the oven, you just want to mash it with nothing, or it comes out of the pot. Just literally mash it. You know, I put it into my little blender, the flesh, and you just no skin, and then you just mash it away. And what you want to end up with, what you need for this pudding, is 100 grams, so 3.5 ounces of weighed, cooked, mashed sweet potato. Yeah, that's why I always say, you know, roast or boil a little bit more than you actually need, because you don't want to have less. So I always say double it, and then you want 100 grams of mashed pure weight at the end of it. So that's the first thing that you need to think about doing, and then you just let it sit to the side and it can cool while you create the rest of the pudding. So sticky date, of course, what do we need? We need dates. So in my little bowl here, I have about 125 grams of pitted dried dates, which is about 4.5 ounces. And what you want to do with your dates is give them a bit of a rough chop, nothing too dramatic, just roughly throw your knife through it. Just make sure, of course, they are pitted, because it would be really hard at this point to chop your dates if they are unpitted. Yes, you can use fresh dates as well. That is amazing. But if you are, you know, if you're on a bit of a budget, then it's absolutely fine just to use dried dates as well, because they're pretty good price. So roughly chop like that, and then I'm going to put my dates into a pot, and then into the pot along with the dates we want to add an equal amount of water. So we had 125 grams or 4.5 ounces of dates. Now we want to add water wise, I'm going to be adding in 125 mils of water, which again is around just over 4.5 ounces of water goes into our dates. All right, this then goes over there. Here. It goes over there. It goes on the stove basically, so I'm going to pop it onto the stove. I want to bring it to the boil, so it's going onto the stove. Bring it up to the boil. While that's doing its thing, we can now start to work on the batter that goes into our sticky date. So what you're going to need for the batter is I have 4 eggs here. Come on down so you can kind of see what I'm doing. 4 eggs. Room temperature eggs, of course, because we're going to be whipping up the whites, so you want to make sure that your eggs are at room temperature. And we're just going to add the whites into our bowl. I'm doing it straight into my mixing bowl here, because that's where it's all going to end up. Put the yolks into another bowl. We're going to save those for later. They will be added later. But we just want to work on the whites for now, because we are going to be creating a pretty cool meringue with the whites. I'm going to show you this really cool meringue that we're going to make. So you want to ideally do this with a machine. You can do it by hand, but you might just need to phone a friend to give you a bit of assistance, because we are going to literally be making like a pavlova type meringue out of it. So make sure you don't get any egg yolk in here. If you're a bit concerned that you might have a bit of egg yolk in there, what you can do is either take your, I'm just focusing, I don't want to get any egg yolk in there. What you can do, if you think you might have a bit of egg yolk in there, or shell, is take the other bit of the shell and just pop it in here. And if you think, I just thought I saw a little bit of egg yolk there, that egg yolk is attracted to the shell, so you don't have to worry about having any egg yolk in your white. It's very cool. So that is now looking pretty good. I'm just checking that I've got no shell. Shell is not good either. I'm going to be attaching my whisk here to my little machine. And you want to whisk it up till it forms soft peaks. Oh, looking good. Yep, leave that going there. About medium. Now while that's doing its thing here, I'm just keeping an eye on the dates on the stove. What you want to do is you want to bring it up to a boil with the dates and let them boil just for about 30 seconds. I have a question, yes? So the question was, can any sweet potato be used? Because we have a sort of a golden sweet potato here in Australia. In New Zealand, they have something known as kumara, which is the indigenous staple of sweet potato, another variation. You can use whatever sweet potato you like. You don't have to use an orange one, you can use a purple one, you can use a white fleshed one, and the kumara from New Zealand has almost got a yellow flesh. It is so delicious. I miss it so much. We can't get it here in Australia. It is amazing. So definitely use whatever sweet potato variety you can get. It'll have the same outcome. Right, my dates had come to a bit of a boil. So what we're going to do, as you can see here, give them a little bit of a mix, and then I'm going to be adding in baking soda straight into the dates. So we need to add in 1 teaspoon of baking soda. 1 teaspoon of baking soda goes in. It's going to start to bubble up. Can you see that? It's all starting to bubble up. This is a good thing. Give it a good stir, let it bubble up. That baking soda is now dissolving, which is perfect, and which is what we need it to do. And as well as that, for flavor, this goes so well with sweet potato, and it's fresh ginger. Yeah, I am putting half a tablespoon or 2 teaspoons of freshly grated ginger straight into my dates. It is going to be amazing. Give it a bit of a stir. And now we can set that on the side just to cool down while we work on this. So what I have now, what I've kind of achieved, as you can see, is soft peaks. So soft peaks basically mean that the whites just hold their shape. I'm not looking for stiff peaks, which means when we pull the whisk out, it forms like literally like a mountain. I'm looking for a soft peak, so it's nice and frothy, perfect. So we're going to take it off over to my scales, and we're going to weigh straight into our mixing bowl here. We want to weigh in the fiber syrup. So you're going to be putting into this bowl right now, you're going to be putting 60 grams or 2 ounces of fiber syrup is going straight in here, and it's going to create the most amazing meringue. It is just incredible. Right, here we go. Turn it back on. You guys can see, yes you can. So what's happening now is it's starting to thicken up a little bit. It's starting to get glossy, which is super exciting. Starting to get really, really glossy. I have to tell you, I like this part once you see it starting to actually form into a meringue. And this is a real visual experience when it comes to this, because what you are trying to see that's happening is that yes, it is getting glossy, which means we're incorporating air. It's looking good. Doesn't take long from this step, so you want to keep an eye on it. So remember, what we're trying to achieve here is stiff peak. So I'm pulling it out of the mix, and you can see we've got a little bit of a mountain happening there, a little bit of and it's holding its shape, which is great. I'm going to let it go just for a little bit longer. I reckon it's good now, because what we're going to see when I lift it up this time is we're going to see very, very stiff, almost, you know, mountainous little peak that we have there. And you can even see the whisk has left an indentation in the mix. So that's what you're looking for. Hence why it's definitely better off if you can do this, if you do have an electric mixer, because what we're doing here is we're incorporating air. And it's that air through that whisking action is going to make this pudding really, really light. So if you don't have an electric mixer and you are doing it by hand, take your time. There, you know, it will take a little bit of time, but just be mindful that you're doing the really good hard work of incorporating air into it. So now that we've got those stiff peaks, we're probably going to slightly ruin them by adding in our sweet potato. So you want the sweet potato to be a little bit cool, because you don't want to cook the eggs. So you let it cool down after we've mashed it. And that goes in. Remember, that was 100 grams or 3.5 ounces. Give it a quick mix in. And now you have an orange meringue, which is always awesome. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in our dates as well, with that beautiful ginger is going to go in bit by bit. I'm also adding in the water too, by the way. So we're adding in the water, bit by bit, incorporating it all in there. Like, the smell is just so good. Oh my gosh. Oops, making a mess. Never mind. The smell is just blowing me away. And the look of this meringue is so good. Oh, this is what cooking's all about. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right, looking fabulous. This mixture on its own, I want to eat it. I know I shouldn't, but I wouldn't mind. And it's you know what we're looking for. It still looks like a meringue, as you can see. It's still lovely and thick, but it's got all these lovely flakes of dates through it. It's these lovely flakes of sweet potato. It's just marvelous. All right, so we're not going to forget that we have our eggs here, and we're also going to just create a bit of dry ingredients as well that we're going to start to put in. So the dry ingredients, because this is like I said, it's a gluten-free, but it's also a nut-free little mixture as well, which is exciting. So the flour that I'm using today is my coconut flour, because coconut obviously goes really well flavor-wise with everything that we're doing here today. So why not add coconut? And you don't need much. We're just going to be putting in 35 grams, which is 1.2 ounces of our coconut flour. It's going in there. If you don't like coconut flour, you don't use it, you can of course put almond or sunflower flour, because there's such a little amount of it. But I do find that coconut goes really well. The flavors are awesome. Let's add some spice. I'm going to be putting in 1 teaspoon of mixed spice. Love it. Mixed spice, sweet potato, you know it's a good thing. And I'm also putting in 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, just to give our ginger even more of a kick. And last but not least, into our dry, we're going to be adding in, get the lid off, 2 teaspoons of baking powder is also going in there as well. Give that a bit of a stir. And all we are left to do now is to begin to incorporate the eggs, the flour mixture there, making sure it's sort of, you just want to make sure that there's no lumps when you're giving it a mix, so you might have to squash them down with your spoon. And we're also just going to be adding a little bit of coconut milk as well. So back with our machine on slow. I'm going to add in the eggs first. That's the 4 egg yolks that we separated. That goes in there first. I'm also going to be putting in 40 mils, which is about 1.3 fluid ounces of our coconut milk. You could use coconut milk, you could use almond milk, any non-dairy milk that you like, but obviously coconut flour, coconut milk, it all works pretty well. And then I'm just going to sprinkle on, turn it up a little bit more, sprinkle on my flour mixture, or my dry ingredients mixture. I don't want to dump everything in because it will deflate my meringue. That's why I'm doing it quite slowly, just to make sure we don't knock out any of that air. Right, that is the mix done. So what you want to think about, there's a couple of ways that you can slice and dice it now, and that all depends on how you like to serve your pudding. So you can either make individual ramekins, something like that, individual ones, or if you wanted to, you could create a large pudding. Now this is my grandma's pudding tin, by the way. My grandma Lynn, this is her pudding tin, which she gave to me. Gets good use in our house. But you can either, like I said, you can either make a large pudding. You don't have to put it in a pudding tin, as long as it's something that you can pop into the oven or your air fryer, because that's how we make our sticky date pudding. So obviously metal goes into both the air fryer or the oven, and so do these ramekins as well. So these are oven-proof ramekins. If you're making a large pudding like this, you're probably going to serve 4 to 5 people with it, or you're going to do 4 little mini individuals. So as I was saying, it's up to you how you decide you want to serve your pudding. All the ways that I've talked about are awesome. Everything is great, so it doesn't really matter too much. So I'm going to put this one into a large. Get all the mixture off. You don't want to waste anything. There'll be dates stuck to it. It's really important that we don't waste anything. And then we're just gonna pour that in. This is the texture that you're looking for. So it is quite a light texture. I forgot to say that on the bottom of my pudding tin, I have some baking paper. So just a little round of baking paper, which is going to help the pudding to come out. And the other thing that you may want to do is also just to lightly grease the sides of the pudding tin. So I just sprayed it very gently with coconut oil, like just a light covering. That's going to help the pudding to come out as well. Now, if you're serving your pudding in individuals, like this, you can see I do have that baking paper there. If you're serving your pudding in individuals, you may just put a bit of baking paper down if you want to, but if you're serving it actually in the little pudding mold, you don't need to grease it. But if you'd like to turn it out, I would definitely grease the side of this with a little bit of coconut oil, just a little tiny little bit light around the edge, and that will definitely help it to come out. So now that you're at this point, you can decide how you want to cook it. If you want to cook it in your oven, you want to set your oven on 180 380 degrees Celsius, so 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're going to pop a whole one like this in the oven. It's probably going to cook for about 25 to 30 minutes. Now, if you are using the little mini ones, they're obviously going to cook a little bit faster, and they will take around about 20 minutes to cook in your oven. Now, if you want to cook it in your air fryer, 180 degrees, 350 Fahrenheit, just the same as your oven. But these only take about 15 minutes, and this large pudding will take around about 20 to 25 minutes. But keep an eye on it. Just make sure with your air fryer that you set this as far away from the actual element as possible. Otherwise, you might get a bit of a burning on top. Yes, we have a question.
What brand is your stand mixer?
What brand is my stand mixer? I have a Breville. It's a Breville, and it's got a real fancy name, like Baking Master or something like that. And it comes complete with that wonderful glass bowl, which is so cool because you can see exactly what's going on. It also has this. This is what I really love about it, and that's why I always get the Breville, is it has a timer. So you can, if you know you've got to beat something for 5 minutes, you set the timer and you walk away. And then it turns itself off. And the other cool thing about this is it has a light. See? Which is awesome. So I think it's like Baking Planetary Master or something along those lines. Something really cool that makes you feel really special is what it is. So it is a very, very, very cool machine that I'm going to put over there. So, all right. You've decided whether you're going in the oven or the air fryer. I cooked mine in the air fryer. I want to show you what they look like. And I also cooked mine as individuals. So this is your sticky date pudding after 15 minutes in the air fryer. Oh, I don't know if it smells like Christmas. I don't know if it smells like, I don't know. It just smells so good. It is phenomenal. And now it's up to you. Like I said, there is nothing wrong with you serving it in this, right? Obviously, you wouldn't be holding it in your hand fresh out of the air fryer because it'll be hot. But there's nothing wrong with it, with you serving it straight in these, because look, I've got one in there. That's a bigger one, and I've got these two. It's fabulous, and it's so good. But before we go, I want to teach you guys how to make an incredible buttery caramel sauce to go with this. Because if you think about sticky, you need to have that lovely sticky caramel to go with it as well. So I am going to grab up my little machine here. Come on back down. There we go. So when it comes to caramel sauce, we need a pot, and what we're going to be doing is weighing off the ingredients for the sauce straight into it. Now there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can either make it with sugar, well, not sugar, you know, Zero As pure erythritol and fiber syrup, and then finish it off with coconut milk, or you could actually finish it off with butter. It's up to you. I'll leave that one up to you guys, but I'm going to show you guys the base to the sauce. So we're going to be adding into our pot. Remember, this is for the sauce. You don't have to do the sauce if you don't want to, but we're going to be adding into our pot 50 grams of our Sweet As pure erythritol, and as well as that, we're going to be adding in 50 grams, which is just over 1.7 ounces each of the erythritol and the fiber syrup go in there. Perfect. So 100 grams in total. That is now going to go in here. Get that out of the way. Actually, I'm going to put it here. I'm going to put here, and you want to turn it on, and you definitely don't want to leave it. You want to stay visual and watching it, because what we're trying to do is obviously create a caramel sauce. And what's going to happen is that the erythritol is going to begin to melt down, and it's going to turn into liquid. We've obviously got a liquid there from the fiber syrup as well. And in creating this caramel sauce, it's going to go from a very light, almost translucent color to a caramel color. And that can happen pretty quickly. So that's why I always suggest whenever you're making anything like caramel, you don't leave. Don't walk away, because it can happen really, really fast. All right, while that's doing its thing, I want to see if I can turn my pudding out of the ramekin. I'm hoping that I can. By the way, I'm doing this all on, too hot. I would like to be doing this all on a medium heat. So got my pudding there. Let's see if it comes out. The best way to see if you're going to get any love from it is just with a little sharp knife around the edges. Hold your breath. Turn it upside down on your plate. Yay! Yay! Hey, it worked! Hey! Check it out! Woohoo! There you go. Isn't that awesome? I mean, it's a little bit crooked. It looks like a crooked mountain, but that's alright because very soon it's going to have caramel sauce drizzled all over it. So it doesn't matter if it's a little crooked mountain, but it looks pretty cute. I'm actually going to try one more because I've got a different shape. I have no idea what it's going to look like when I pull it out, and if it's going to come out at all. So fingers crossed. This is kind of, you know, it tapers in, so I don't even know if it's going to stand up. But you know what? I'm up for a challenge. Right, are you ready? Hold your breath. That's good. It's always a good idea to hold your breath. Oh, look at that. I think that's an even better shape than the last one. Don't you reckon? That is a better shape. This is why I like to do them in individuals, because then you feel like you got your own special private pudding. And no one can have your pudding. It's all yours by yourself. And as I've always said when it comes to pudding, growing up, I just thought that pudding of any description was the best thing in the entire world. And my thought pattern on pudding definitely has not changed throughout my life. Yes, we've got a question, Mahi.
Can that be steamed?
Can that be steamed? Yes, it can be steamed. I actually prefer it baked, to be honest with you, because it's such a light pudding anyway. And look at this, look at me, look how light that is. Because we're making it with the egg making it into meringue, you get a real lightness about it. So I have tried it steamed, and it does take, you know, a good amount of time unless you've got an actual steamer, like I'm talking about a steam oven. When you do steam it, you're probably looking at around about an hour to 90 minutes worth of steaming. To individuals, you're looking at an hour. The big pudding maybe even up to 2 hours, sorry. So yeah, I actually prefer it baked because it takes 15 minutes in the air fryer. And I really like the fact that you get this lovely crust on it as well. So the top is crunchy, which is, I'm going to turn this one over. The top is crunchy, which is just gorgeous. You've got this lovely crunchy top. And then you've got this soft, pillowy inside. It's amazing. All right, what's happening here now? As you guys can see, it's gone into a caramel. So already, after not very long, we have created a little caramel sauce with it. So at this point in time, up to you, you could add a couple tablespoons of coconut milk, or you could add a sort of half a tablespoon of butter to create a buttery caramel. So I'm going to use coconut milk with it, because that's kind of the theme of the day. Oh, it's going to bubble. Don't worry. Don't panic. It's all meant to happen. This is what's supposed to happen. And the last thing I'm going to add into it, because why wouldn't I, is a pinch of salt. So now we've made a salted caramel sauce. I know, and it's not even lunchtime on Saturday, and we've made salted caramel sauce and sticky date pudding. All right, we've got a question. Yes, I'll look at that.
Robin just asked, did you grease the ramekins?
Yes, I did grease the ramekins, Robin. So I greased them with a little bit of coconut oil. You could also grease them with just a little bit of butter. It doesn't need much, but the idea when you grease it, like, you only have to grease it if you plan to turn them out. If you're just going to keep them in, like serve this, you know, why not just do this if you wanted to and serve that with your sauce on top? But if you want to turn them out, you definitely better off if you grease your little ramekins as well. All right, let's go. Sticky sauce, caramel sauce time. Right over to, I should have done that. I wanted you guys to see the dribble. Let's do it again because you need more. Woo! Sticky caramel buttery sauce, well, salted caramel sauce on our sticky date pudding. There is no sugar in here. There's no gluten in here. There is no dairy in here. And we have the most gorgeous, come on, but down there we go. The most gorgeous sticky date puddings that are healthy. You don't think that's healthy, but that's healthy. And why not, if you even wanted to just be a little bit fancy, you could even do something like this. Grab yourself up some inulin. This is, you know, don't have to do this. Only do this when you really want to. but I always like to have that little icing sugar-like glaze over top of it. A little bit of, and we are looking pretty fabulous. So there you have it. I don't even know which one I prefer. It's hard to say. They both look pretty good. But there you have it. Our sticky date puddings, but healthy. It has been a wonderful week here for our pub classics. And yes, I have served this on pretty much every pub menu I've ever written. It's always had a sticky date pudding or a creme brulee or a bread and butter pudding. Those are my 3 top pub classics. But my absolute top is this because pudding. So thank you for joining me today, everybody. I hope you have enjoyed today's episode of Bridget's Healthy Kitchen. Don't forget to subscribe to our Facebook channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe on Instagram and on Pinterest as well. If you want even more of these amazing gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free, healthy recipes, gut-healthy recipes coming your way. I've got plenty more. Someone just asked, could you serve it with coconut yogurt on the side? Yes, you could. It would be amazing. Coconut yogurt on the side. Whipped coconut cream on the side. It's all good, right? Alright guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend wherever you are in the world. Please stay safe. Please stay well. And we will see you next week in Bridget's Healthy Kitchen, where we will be doing as requested all week. So it's the recipes that you have requested. I'll be cooking them for you all week next week in Bridget's Healthy Kitchen. Until then, take care, be well, eat well, and enjoy your pudding.